Danny's small voice crackled through 911. Dispatch asking for a Happy Meal. Officers Turner and Wells arrived at apartment 3B expecting a prank. The 4-year-old who answered was alone, surrounded by empty containers. When they asked when he last ate, Danny held up 3 uncertain fingers. What his mother had done left both officers frozen. It started as just another evening shift at the police station. Officer Ryan Turner sat at his desk. Then the radio crackled to life. Dispatch had received an unusual call. A child had dialed 911, but instead of reporting an emergency, he was asking for food. Specifically, a Happy Meal. His voice was small and desperate. He insisted he was very hungry and needed help right away. Most officers would have dismissed it as a prank, but the dispatcher sensed something different in this call. She requested that officers respond to check on the situation. Turner grabbed his jacket and headed to the parking lot where his partner, Officer Emily Wells, was already waiting by their patrol car. They climbed in and headed toward the address dispatch had provided. The address led them to a deteriorating apartment building on the east side of town. They reached apartment 3B and knocked firmly on the door. Turner announced their presence, identifying themselves as police officers. The door opened just a crack. A small face appeared in the narrow opening. The boy looked up at them with eyes that seemed too big for his thin face. His first words were not about being scared of the police. He asked if they had brought his Happy Meal. Turner asked gently if his parents were home. The boy shook his head. He explained that his mom had been gone for a while. The apartment was nearly empty. A worn couch sat against one wall, its cushions stained and sagging. Empty food containers were scattered across the floor. A small mattress laid directly on the floor with a thin blanket bunched at one end. Wells knelt down beside Danny and asked him when he last ate. The boy thought for a moment, then held up 3 fingers, but he looked uncertain, like he might be guessing. Danny explained that his mom had left for work. She always came back late, he said, sometimes very late. But this time, she had been gone longer than usual. Turner sat down on the floor beside Danny. The boy kept returning to the same question. When would his Happy Meal arrive? He explained that he had seen it on television and it looked so good. Turner asked Danny how he knew to call 911. The boy said he had learned it from a show about emergencies. He remembered that 911 helped people when they were in trouble. Being really hungry felt like an emergency to him. As they sat together waiting, Turner could not stop noticing details that made his heart ache. Danny's arms were so thin that his bones seemed to push against his skin. His shirt hung loosely on his small frame like a tent. His cheeks were hollow and his eyes appeared too large for his face. The social worker arrived within 20 minutes. She introduced herself to Danny with a warm smile and immediately produced sandwiches and juice boxes from her bag. Danny's eyes went wide. He grabbed a sandwich and began eating so fast that Wells had to gently tell him to slow down. Wells pulled up records on her tablet while they waited. What she found made everything click into place. Danny's mother had been arrested 2 days earlier on drug possession charges. Danny had been alone in that apartment for 48 hours, 2 full days with no food, and no one to care for him. As the social worker prepared the paperwork to take Danny into protective custody, Turner made a decision. He drove to the nearest fast food restaurant and went inside. When he returned to the apartment, he was carrying a red Happy Meal box. Danny's entire face transformed when he saw it. The social worker explained to Danny that he would be staying with a nice family for a while, a family who would make sure he had plenty to eat and a warm bed to sleep in. Danny listened while hugging his Happy Meal box, occasionally peeking inside to look at the toy. As they prepared to leave, Danny turned back toward Turner and Wells. He waved goodbye with a small smile, still holding his Happy Meal tightly. That image would burn itself into both officers' memories. They would carry it with them for years. Danny was placed with a foster family that evening. The couple who took him in had experience with children who had been through trauma. They were patient and loving. They made sure Danny received proper medical care and regular meals. Most importantly, they showed him what stability felt like. Over the following months, Danny's transformation was remarkable. He gained weight steadily. His cheeks filled out and color returned to his skin. The hollow look in his eyes gradually faded. He started to laugh and play like any other child his age. A year passed. Turner had moved on to other cases, other emergencies, other people who needed help, but he never forgot about the little boy who called 911 asking for a Happy Meal. Then one afternoon, Turner opened his locker at the station and found an envelope waiting for him. Inside was a photograph. It showed Danny, now healthy and bright-eyed, holding up a piece of paper. On it was a drawing done in crayon. Two figures in blue uniforms stood next to a smaller figure holding a red box. At the bottom, in careful child's handwriting that clearly took great effort to write, were the words, "Thank you for saving me." Turner stared at that drawing for a long time. Then he carefully taped it inside his locker door where he would see it every single day. It became a reminder of why he chose this job. Danny's call that night was unusual, certainly, but it was also a lifeline, a desperate attempt by a small child to survive. And two officers who chose to take that call seriously changed everything. What would you have done if you received Danny's call that night?